Come on, YouTube. Ah, we're live. It took me 5 minutes to go live. I'm sorry, but we had a pretty interesting pre-stream conversation about completely different topics. I'm not going to invite my guest. I'm going to let her do that herself. By all means, go ahead.
Hi, I go by Lady Unicorn EJG all over the internet, and I haven't made anything in years, so I'm just kind of here. Just thought we would have this conversation.
And hi there, Michael, by the way. I'm sorry that I startled you, mate. I'm sorry I was 5 minutes late. I know. But at least the sound is good this time, isn't it, Michael? It's a joke. Michael is one of the first persons to tell me when I fuck up my settings. So yeah, there is that. It's going to be a short stream, I guess, because not a lot of people here, and I was hoping for the rewatch value of it. So first, what's the topic? Well, we had a small talk on Twitter on how best to support YouTube creators and whether YouTube... How is that program named? I forgot the name. Where you can become a member.
Premium.
Premium, okay. A little clipping on my end. And my guest is quieter than me. It should be about the same.
Probably because I moved slightly for something.
Probably. I blame her. Easy enough. Done. But thank you for letting me know, Michael. Anyway, so yeah, we're talking about whether it is a good idea to go premium to support the YouTube creators you enjoy. And my point is no, and her point is yes. Obviously, I know why I think so, so I'm going to give the floor to her to let her explain to you all, Michael Keller, why joining premium is a good idea.
Alright. Well, the main reason that I think it's a good idea is because it allows you to still be contributing financially to creators even if you cannot or will not go support them on other platforms, and even if you do not watch ads, or if YouTube decides that their content is not friendly to advertisers and thus takes it to where it doesn't have any ads, and that's usually when people complain they've been demonetized.
Well,
if you're paying YouTube, you are the one providing that money rather than advertisers.
I'm curious. If you're being demonetized, will you still get money from premium?
That rather depends on which version of demonetization you're talking about. If your channel is demonetized, like if it's removed from the program, no, you can't. However, most of the time when larger creators have commented that their video is demonetized, they're referring to a little yellow icon that actually says that it will have limited or no advertisements. And in that particular instance, yes, premium does still pay them.
Okay. My experience was that once they started putting yellow markers on my videos, I didn't get from premium either, to be honest. Well, it wasn't called premium back then. It was called red.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's something that I'm afraid a lot of people misunderstand.
Well, yeah.
I almost got rid of my subscription to it because I thought creators I was watching weren't getting anything because they're saying over and over that they're demonetized. And then I actually looked into it one day and found out what they were talking about because one of them showed a screenshot and it was just that yellow icon.
Yeah, okay. Hi there, John, and I guess bye there, John. Let me know how the footy match goes. Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, but it seems I won't be dishonest on you, so I don't know. But from my personal experience, Red didn't support you once you got demonetized, or once a video got demonetized, because first my videos got demonetized, then I got demonetized. But yeah, maybe that changed. It's possible. I have been demonetized for a very long time.
Well, literally the thread on Twitter we were on talking about, Vice Rhino had shown that he was getting money from premium subscribers. That was the whole start of the conversation.
In all fairness, I haven't got the Twitter thread active here, but it's possible that he got it. Don't get me wrong. The question still remains, is it a good thing to support YouTube creators by supporting YouTube?
I don't see why it's a terribly bad thing, and people are going to do so either way.
Oh no, people are always allowed to do. The question is not whether we should disallow people from doing it. The question is...
Oh no, I wasn't thinking you were saying we shouldn't allow them. But I mean, even aside from premium, people are still going to wind up supporting YouTube.
Well, are they?
Every time you watch an ad.
Well, if you watch an ad, yes. How many people use ad blockers? And you have to update your ad blockers regularly. So do you think
we would be better having people just block the ads and still use YouTube?
Well, that's a question that needs to be having. Actually, I would say it may seem unfair, but yes, because this is what YouTube kind of is moving towards. I mean, they tell you that your videos aren't, how do you call it, advertiser friendly. But then if you check your video with unrelated accounts, you will notice that your videos still run ads.
I would be interested to see if anybody is finding that and not getting paid for the ads. Because when they tell you you're not advertiser friendly, they tell you also that it's going to be limited, not zero ads.
No, actually,
supposed to share from the ones that do show.
Back in the days, it meant you didn't get any ads. And I know this happened to me. I didn't care because, in all fairness, my channel never has been big, and I never did YouTube to make money. I only joined the monetization, not for myself, but for YouTube. Because once you monetize it, you give them the right to run ads on your channel, and they'll pay you a little bit, and a large bit they will keep themselves. I monetize my channel, not so much that I would get money from it, but for YouTube itself. And people don't believe me when I say this, but I made a little less than $100 in the period that I was monetized. I never asked for that money. I don't think I'll be able to get it now because it's several years ago, but I never cared. But I did notice that when they demonetized my videos, I could, with other accounts, still get monetized, still see adverts on that video.
Well, I honestly don't have any clue because you're talking about something that was the case and is not now.
I'm not sure if it's not now, though. I can't tell. Because obviously my videos aren't monetized, and my videos shouldn't have any form of, how do you call it, adverts in front or after them. But I haven't checked into it either. In all fairness, I simply don't care. The worst part of it all is if YouTube were to say, you know what, we're going to run ads on your videos, then I would say, yeah, you know what, fair point, you're offering me a service for free. I wouldn't mind. But because of the double standard they're using, I have a problem with it. Do you understand the difference between those two?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but like I said, it seems like you're talking about things that do not appear to be the case according to both their own claims and what I've heard from other current creators that are monetized.
Yeah, well, in all fairness, I'm throughout the years learned not to take the claims of YouTube serious, because they tend to, how do I say this correctly? They tend to say things that they don't do, and they tend not to say the things that they do. I think the word is lying.
They lie.
Yeah. Which unfortunately happens. And again, had they been honest about it, I probably wouldn't cared, or at least not as much as I do now. At this point in time, they're taking away money from people who they disagree with. So, for example, if you are monetized, most of your videos can be demonetized, but if you do a live stream, people can still pay, how do you call those things? Super chats. And from those super chats, YouTube takes an amount. Fair enough, they are the provider of the platform. But why are you demonetizing people while still trying to make money off of them? Then again, this is a little bit the problem I'm having with YouTube. YouTube used to grow on people creating. Now, YouTube is predominantly broadcasting mainstream media.
Yeah, they just shift happened over time. I'm not even sure exactly all of how it happened. But as things are put on here that are, well, hell, even back when it was, sorry about cussing, but even back when it was mostly new regular creators, there was a lot of things that were pirated that don't belong legally being uploaded, that were being uploaded to YouTube and watched constantly too.
Yeah,
it's
fair
just
enough.
shifted to where the actual copyright holders are the ones putting it up, and I don't know how much of it's natural because people know the names and how much of it is actually manipulated. I'm not going to make a claim to it.
Fair enough.
But yes, they have definitely had a shift over time. It's something that I have heard creators complaining about for almost as long as I've been on the site.
So, should we help YouTube prosper by giving them money? Not should we help.
I see that we have a better option.
Do we have a different option? Better is a value statement. You can't say something is better or worse. Well, you can, but it's
not
an
objectively. It's a matter of opinion, yes.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I mean, do we have alternatives? Well, funny enough, this is a topic John would know about, because in the past we talked about, for example, VidMe, and John was quite clear on why he thinks VidMe didn't make it, even though by a lot of statistics, VidMe was easily as good as YouTube, but it was a lot smaller, and it couldn't translate the growth into a viable platform. It became too big to sustain itself, basically. But then again,
it was actually probably the only one I joined that I've seen so far.
Yeah, it was a good platform. In all fairness, though, YouTube is too big to sustain itself too, because it's been turning a loss ever since it's been bought up by Google. So
it was turning a loss. Yeah, exactly. I actually may have been turning a loss before that, and that'd be why it was bought up. It's just Google can afford to run things at a loss.
Yeah, the question is, if you run things at a loss, why censor what's on it? With the argument that it's not advertiser friendly. You're already running it at a loss, so why are you scaring away certain viewpoints?
Well, you do realize that just because they're running at a loss doesn't mean that they can't still be losing more.
Of course they can, but I do think that by giving in to the whole apocalypse bullshit, something they, in all fairness, created themselves, they lost more money.
They might have.
No, it's
not really sure that's related to whether or not it'd be a good idea for somebody to use premium.
Well, the question, it's not about whether premium is a good or a bad idea. I mean, if you want to give your money, go ahead, give it. I think it's better to support the individual creator, because more of that money then remains with the individual creator. If you give it to YouTube, it remains mostly at YouTube. Right?
You cut out a bit, at least for me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Michael did say I was clipping. I don't know why. But basically, when you give money to YouTube, you hope that they spread it fair enough. But if they don't, there is nothing you can do, because you gave money to YouTube. Unless... If you give it to individual creators, PayPal, Subscribestar, Patreon, whatever, then you support that one creator. But at least you know that the money gets where you want it to be.
Do you, though?
Yeah,
Every one of those places could also take any amount cut.
They do take a cut, and the cut they take is known up front. I think that the most expensive of the three is Subscribestar, Patreon, and PayPal are slightly cheaper. But on the other hand, you are 100% sure that when Subscribestar is your platform, so far they will pay out. Where PayPal and Patreon have already proven not to be reliable on that, which is also strange.
They're reliable for most people, but there's a lot of stuff we're not going to get into in this.
Obviously they're reliable to most people. It's not most people they shaft, but the ones that they shafted can't rely on them, and therefore, in all fairness, no one can rely on them, because at what point in time will they decide that even though they supported you all this time, now they stopped agreeing with you, and therefore they stop paying you out?
Can't it literally be asked about anything you use, though?
Not really.
Anywhere could decide that they're not going to support something anymore.
Not really. I mean, I have a bank. My bank takes my money, stores my money, and helps me do my payments. It does so for me, but it does so for millions of other people. If I hear that the bank stopped doing that for a handful of people, how much trust do I have in this bank? Because they might have done it in this situation, but who says I won't be next?
By that same reasoning, you could actually literally argue that most of the big name credit card companies are not reliable.
I agree, and I completely do. And I don't think they are reliable. Hell, I think they're part of the problem, to be honest.
I'm pretty sure, though, that the banks actually have regulations where they literally can't. When it comes to anywhere that you're going to manage to support a creator on YouTube or any of the alternative platforms, there's nothing literally preventing them from it. So at some point, theoretically, any one of them could refuse.
Which is what happened. Which is the problem.
But it's something that can happen to every one of them you find and decide to promote, too.
Well, so far, Subscribestar hasn't done that, so at this point in time...
I'm glad they haven't so far.
Yeah, no, fair point. So far is the word I used. But YouTube has done it. So is it fair to give YouTube more of your money?
I mean, as fair as it is to give 90% of the websites that exist your money through either advertising or directly, and if we don't,
no, advertising is a different.
Won't have an internet.
Advertising is a different game altogether, because I'm not giving them money through advertising. I might look at an advert, fair enough, but that's not costing me anything. It's merely costing me a bit of time.
You kind of are. They're selling your view and frequently your information in order to get those adverts.
They're selling my view. My information will be a tad bit more difficult, because not all of my information is easily obtainable. But then again, I would advise everyone to use a VPN.
Yes, there are people who are not going to be giving nearly as much information. But overall, the advertising has its own set of problems that are at least as bad.
I'm sorry, can you explain that?
What, how advertising has its own problems overall that are as bad as paying YouTube directly?
Yes, please explain that. I'm curious how you came to that conclusion.
Well, basically the way that any of these major websites and platforms manage to get advertisers in the first place. They take information, and yes, I get you are not necessarily giving it to them. A lot of people who are informed about it are not necessarily giving them the information they want. Mm-hmm. But they take the information they can get. They take the fact that in the case of Google, they own a lot of people's smartphones. They take, in the case of Facebook, they were caught taking information through permissions from their app that they should have never realistically had. And they use it in giant algorithms so that they can more directly target ads, frequently manipulatively, even if not deliberately so.
So basically what you're telling me now is that they are using information to push a certain narrative on people, for example, by advertisement. But if they can do it with advertisement, they can do it with news sources as well.
I've never said they couldn't.
No,
I'm not so sure that they do it in a truly deliberate way for the most part, but I've never argued that they couldn't do it.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
they can. They have a lot of algorithms to do so.
According to, and I have to look up the name now because I am crap with names, I did say that. According to a documentary made by, I forgot her name, she's one of those people from Alex Jones's channel. Now I remember Alex Jones, but now I don't remember.
God.
I don't remember the organization he's part from. What is it called?
Oh my God.
See, it's so important. I constantly forget the names. The reporter that made it was called Millie Weaver, I think. She talked with a bunch of people on how our media is control. Infowars. Thank you, chat.
Oh my God.
Thank you. Anyway, what is it weird that I forgot the name?
Oh. To put things politely, this has become very much more interesting to me.
Oh, how so?
Because you're citing or looking to cite, it sounds like, a conspiracy theorist website, yes, we were talking a little bit about those beforehand, that is known for, well, became partially infamous because of his whole, they're turning the frogs gay.
Which, by the way, has biologically been proven to be correct. Wow,
Not exactly
gay.
Frogs actually change on their own based on what is around them.
Well, based on the environment. They change their sexuality based on their environment. So,
so they're not being turned gay, they literally just change their sex based on whether or not they have what they need.
So, they are born with one sex and they change. I mean, okay, they're not gay.
It's not a conspiracy for them to do it, though.
No, they're not. They're not gay in what, well, colloquially would deem gay. But I can forgive him his poetic freedom in this one. Not that I really care much about him, because he also said some other things. Some of the stuff he said was, in all fairness, really stupid. But Infowars has come across with certain information that is something we should at least look at.
I am sure they can manage to find some things that are technically true or even important. You can find just about anyone will have some correct views. Whether or not I would consider them reliable enough to bother with as a main source is another story.
Well, it's not a main source, but it is a source. And as I was
the source, I would definitely tend to question.
Oh, perfectly fine. You should question. You should question every source. Hell, you should question me. You should question everything. That's the only way to prevent from being indoctrinated. You should question everything. But back to the point I was trying to make. Don't shout into the mic. Oh, did I shout? I'm sorry, Michael. I didn't plan to shout. My bad. Anyway, back to the point at hand. It has been asserted, let's say asserted by the Millie Weaver documentary, that there has been a concerted effort in trying to push certain narratives and stopping other narratives. And we know that this is effective because this has been proven in several social psychology studies in the past decennia. Well, not in the past decennia, because They're not allowed to test those things since the 1980s, I think, 1980s or 1970s, because people started thinking that these things were highly unethical, which, in all fairness, I have to agree with. But when it comes to having control over the narrative, how that changes behavior, in all fairness, there are still contemporary examples of this. How pushing a certain narrative will push a society. Should we be okay with that?
Well, like you pointed out with something else, that's a matter of opinion.
Fair enough.
It also does tend to depend on what is being pushed, because you're not going to find a society that doesn't to some degree.
Well, I know this from the Netherlands, for example. They had a show, and in a way this show is based on both Mohammed Sharif's social psychology study from the 1950s, and what Taleb was talking about. They have two groups, and basically by manipulating the information the people in these groups are getting, they are turning these groups against each other. Not a single lie was spoken. And this
Except, I'm sure, of omission.
Lies of omission, fair enough. Yeah, definitely that. The program was supposed to run a certain set of time, and they were all adults and they were all willing participants. And they stopped it predominantly before the end because it became too dangerous. People were actually physically trying to kill each other, not hurt each other, kill each other. And this is just based
that
on...
sounds like that experiment where they had people as prisoners and guards.
Well, the Stanford...
It always winds up resulting in that.
The Stanford experiment...
That's a power dynamic.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. The Stanford experiment was a power dynamic. This wasn't a power dynamic. These two groups were considered to be equal. They were not... One group is better than the other. They're just humans. It's not one group having to decide over the other group, which the Stanford experiment was. I mean, you had prison guards and prisoners. One group decided over the other group. These are just two different groups, but the information they are getting is slanted. So there is no power dynamic between these two groups, yet still they turn against one another, based only on the information they are getting. So should we support organizations that do this? Willingly or unwillingly?
Manipulate people to turn them against each other? Well, no. But that's not usually why information becomes slanted.
But this is what YouTube does. They have been proven to do that. No, this has been proven. We know from YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, the way they try to manipulate the election of 2016 and how they are currently trying to manipulate the election again. This has been proven time and again. This is not conspiracy. Hell, they actually committed doing this. Omitted? No, not omitted. They admitted, sorry. English not my first language, so I'm not always as smooth.
Kind of figured that that's not a big deal.
Though, but they did admit doing this.
These are things that I would probably want to have sources on, and obviously a real-time chat is not going to work very well to counter anything that may be wrong with that.
Well, let's see if I can find a YouTube source. Which is difficult because, in all fairness, the search engines are also not that friendly. Now, I assume you don't like the National Sentinel.
Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of them I don't like, but it has pretty little bearing on things. It's more a matter of if information can actually be verified to be true.
What do we think of... Oh, for fuck's sake. Saving clothes, stupid Guardian. What do you think about The Guardian?
Don't have a huge opinion one way or the other on it.
Okay.
Don't have a huge problem with it necessarily, but...
Okay, let's see if I can get
even
this...
when you pick... I mean, even if people pick the most mainstream sources, I have a tendency to actually go through when I have time, which again, I obviously would not during a live event, and go see where it actually leads and if it actually came from what they say it did, if what they actually said happened, if it's even verifiable at all.
Okay, well, fair enough. I am going to share this with you and the public at home. So I already shared it with you, now I need to share it with the public at home.
Sure.
Because I'm not overly superly fast. Go on then, stupid YouTube. No, this is not YouTube's problem, this is OBS. Come on, OBS. There we go. Sometimes it takes so long for the bloody program to respond. It's quite annoying. Anyway, how an ex-YouTube insider investigated its secret algorithm. Now we're going to scroll down a little bit. Yeah, we're not going to do the whole story. Because I understand that you want to read it thoroughly to make a fair point analysis and whatnot. I'm just sharing it so that people can find it. I think this is interesting. Missing videos and bias. Roughly half of the YouTube recommended videos in the database have been taken offline or made private since the election, either because they were removed by whoever uploaded them or because they were taken down by YouTube. That might be because of copyright violations or because the video contains some other breach of the company's policy. Wait a second. Why are they taken down afterwards? Anyway, so this article, and it's a long time ago since I looked into it.
You do realize that most things don't disappear immediately regardless of what they actually might violate, right?
True, but if there's more than a few months in it, then we can question its validity and motivation, can't we?
You can question whatever you want,
Okay.
but there are other possibilities such as people reporting it. I'm just throwing out there that exists.
It does. It does. It also happens that certain keywords change in the algorithm. I'm going to stop sharing this because we're not going to really go into it too far, I guess. But I mean, this is very interesting because there are a bunch of channels that are, for example, pro-transgender, pro-gay, etc., etc., etc. And just to make it clear, I'm not anti-gay or anti-transgender. I don't care. So
yeah, there's a lot of those channels that complain about their content getting censored too.
Yep, because certain keywords have been made, they're no longer allowed. And because those keywords are no longer allowed, they suddenly are being harmed as well. It's a side effect, it's not an intended goal, but the fact that it happens should give us reason to be reluctant to support this. It does for me, to be honest. I mean,
like I told you before, I think on Twitter was where I was saying it, or I might have even said it earlier before this even started. Part of it is that I would rather we have the poll as viewers. I mean, obviously right this second I'm a viewer, but I'd rather the viewers have the poll by saying, hey, we can cancel our subscriptions, we can stop paying you, rather than it all be down to advertisers that just can decide whether or not they want to support things and can claim that anything's harming their brand, and then people go try to convince the companies to do things, and they have way more sway than individuals would, and all of the crap that goes with it.
But funny enough, this is why I would say don't support premium. Because I understand that
premium is the only way you actually have the financial pull within YouTube.
I disagree.
If you want to go over to another platform, that's great, but none of them have come up and actually managed to hit critical mass so far.
Well, there are a few payment processes that seem to be working fine. There are no other platforms, video sharing platforms, that seem to be doing great. Though, in all fairness, Cocoscope is also doing pretty well. They have a monetization program which is working fine. Unfortunately, you're not allowed to post anything political on there. I mean, soft porn, not a problem, but political is a problem because their payment processor doesn't allow political content, which is
I can actually almost understand it, given all the crap that goes on these days.
Oh?
I mean, if they did decide that something wasn't allowed, they would have a huge fight going on between people who are saying that they aren't going far enough and people who are just fine with it, and then also people who are saying that whatever they decided to not allow was proof that they were against a specific group of people and plotting their downfall or something.
Well, there are also political creators and firearm creators that used to be active on YouTube that are now on Pornhub.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Stupidity.
That's not really good for the creator or Pornhub, but
Pornhub doesn't care.
I've definitely heard of people doing it.
Pornhub doesn't care. I've looked into it.
Right,
Pornhub
because it
doesn't
hasn't
care.
gotten major enough to actually disrupt their service.
It won't disrupt their service. It simply won't. Even if you become big, either you become big and they have a lot of traffic and they get paid and you get some money, or it doesn't get big, so they don't have a lot of traffic and they get paid and you get a little bit of money.
No, an individual will not disrupt their service. However, a mass migration over there because of their better policies, according to some people, would, because then they would become overwhelmingly not porn.
Even that might never happen considering the amount of broadcasting they do
Fair
on
enough.
porn. I mean,
But
Pornhub, just Pornhub, is a magnitude of many times bigger than YouTube. Eirik, papa is bezig. Nee, naar mama toe. Eirik.
fair enough, it might not happen. But
Well,
it also seems like something that is at least a potential.
I think it's more likely that Pornhub just doesn't give a fuck. It's going
At the
to be a
moment,
problem.
they don't.
No, they don't.
At the moment, why would they?
No, but that is an issue, don't you think? And because Pornhub has already done what Vidney wasn't able to do, which is upscale. I mean, Pornhub is pretty big when it comes to storage and broadcasting. They've already monetized everything. And
Cool,
even
so maybe you should convince them to create a version that's good for not adult content.
well, you have on Pornhub you do have a safe for work tab apparently.
Okay. But
So-
they're still, by their very nature, something you would not want to be sending teenagers to.
Oh, I
I mean,
agree.
granted, they'll go on there anyway, but
I agree with that too.
You want to send them.
No, I totally agree with you. But then again, when it comes to the hypocrisy of disallowing political content, we are okay with soft porn and porn, but we have a problem with political content?
Everywhere has their standards of what they want the content on there to be.
Oh no, the platforms themselves I can somewhat understand, but it's the payment processes I'm now talking about. Because they're okay with paying Pornhub, they're okay with, at Cocoscope, paying
Yeah.
soft porn, but they're not okay with
To
paying...
be honest, I don't think that the payment processors should be nearly as active in this stuff as they are.
I totally agree. I think that's the major problem. And funny enough, that's why I advocate against using premium. Not because I don't want YouTube to have money and keep working, but because the way they use it.
But I don't use premium or even view it as a way to directly pay an individual or, it's not, I don't see premium as a payment processor. It's not a thing I'm deciding, okay, I'm going to pay this person this much. That would be more of an issue with if they or how they choose who can have super chats. If they were to disable that, that would be more of an issue with that, because that is used to
Which
say, okay, I'm
they-
supporting you.
which they also
With premium,
done,
it's
to be honest.
basically a way to avoid the ads without avoiding contributing.
No, not really. With premium, you're still paying YouTube.
I'm saying without avoiding contributing, not with, like, instead of avoiding contributing at all by putting an ad blocker. You still contribute with premium as opposed to just blocking everything, as you seem to believe would be a better option.
It's not so much that I believe it would be a better option, but it would be fairer. If we want YouTube to either come forward with what they're doing or change what they're doing, then we have to make choices. And not going for premium is one of those choices.
Only if they can recognize it being done as a actual protest against what they're doing. If you're just not buying it and you've never bought it and you just, okay, I'm not going to because you have bad policies, the odds are they're not going to see it as that. They're just going to keep seeing you as another person who is going to just either be traffic and nothing or give them ad money by selling your eyeballs.
Well, I doubt that, because they actually do research that sort of shit. They do keep track of people. They do ask people, what do you think? Why do you do this or that? There is a lot of research going into it. And funny enough...
You actually think we're going to get enough people, you're going to get enough people that they're going to see it as a protest, as I'm not buying this
I don't know.
because you have rules I don't like, basically.
I don't know. There's only one way to find out, isn't there?
I'm not sure there's even one way to find out, because you can't really convince the entire public to do or not do something just because you would like to.
Yeah, but you don't need to convince the entire public.
You need to convince a critical mass, which if we could do easily, we could just get another platform up.
How big do you think a critical mass is?
I'm not really sure, especially for the topic at hand.
Well, in social studies, it has been proven that as little as 5 to 10% can change a society.
Michael tried to claim that the money just goes to YouTube and not content creators, which we've already kind of covered, because that's where this whole thing started, was a content creator showing his share of premium revenue.
It's nice to see that a content creator gets from YouTube an amount of premium, but we don't know how much
exactly,
it is compared to how much of... So YouTube gives you something...
we also can't say that they don't.
Well, fair enough, but it's not really... It is so far the amounts shown don't give us a reason to believe they are substantial parts of it. Hell, knowing that YouTube takes 45% out of a super chat, which is directly based on one person's work, and it's directly aimed at one person, and YouTube still takes 45%.
So, I wonder if I can actually get a hold of Hank Green, who previously did a thing discussing literally some of this, and as a larger creator does promote people using it, because he does get a substantial amount of his revenue for the channels out of premium subscribers.
I totally believe that he does. I mean, listen, if you're a big channel, and we're talking 10,000 plus, then yeah, you're going to get more money out of revenue from advertisement and from premium.
Well, yeah, as
long as they agree with you, because in all fairness, if we look at what's his name, Steven Crowder had his stuff demonetized for more than 14 months, even though he had millions of views.
Your points seem to hinge on things that I would indeed need to do significant research with sources to remotely agree with.
Okay, so you disagree that Steven Crowder got demonetized?
No, I disagree that we have actually proven, or had proven, that it is based on things like them not agreeing.
In case of Steven Crowder, it was absolutely based on them not agreeing with what he had to say. That was the funny part of it. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I would have to actually see the evidence of this in order to come to an agreement that was the case. I have not.
Well, I'd advise you to look into it. It's really interesting. But basically, Steven Crowder's channel, Louder with Crowder, got demonetized because Blah Blah Maza complained about the way Steven Crowder spoke, claiming that Steven Crowder was anti-gay and anti-trans, and therefore he got demonetized. Obviously, Maza wasn't happy because he shouldn't get demonetized. He should have been banished from the platform, according to Maza. But yeah, because someone complained that they didn't like what Steven Crowder said, YouTube demonetized him.
So, because somebody viewed it, whether correctly or not, as essentially being hate speech and tried to press on the terms that they do actually have on hate speech.
Define hate speech.
I would need to look up the legal definitions that exist around the world for it.
Please do. Please do.
But they do.
I can already tell you what the definition of hate speech in the United States is on a legal basis.
In the United States, it does not matter because it is legally protected. But
there is no such thing as hate speech.
To a YouTube channel.
There is no such thing as hate speech in the United States. Or rather,
right, it's legally because it's not a legal thing that we, have against.
There is no legal.
To say what you want in this country.
There is no legal definition of hate speech in the United States.
However, there are legal definitions around the world, and there are definitions. So just because we don't have a legal definition, because it is just straight up legal to do,
there is no such thing.
It's not there is no definition in general.
There is no such thing as hate speech in most of the Western world. The best thing that comes close to it are blasphemy laws.
You're kind of missing, conflating 2 points here. There is a matter of the fact that it's not illegal in most of the world. However, the definition of what it is still exists. It's just generally
but how can
most of the Western world.
How can a definition of something that doesn't exist in a legal point of view be used for a legal point of view?
It doesn't have to be a legal point of view for YouTube to decide to allow or not allow something.
So then basically what you're saying is it's completely correct for them to arbitrarily do what they feel is right.
I'm saying they are legally allowed to.
They
does not mean I necessarily agree with the decision.
Are they allowed to? That's a good question, actually. Based on what are they allowed to?
The fact that there are no laws forcing them to allow any particular content.
Actually,
they own the platform, and thus they can decide whether or not to leave anything on it, or even to allow anybody at all to put anything on it.
Actually, that's not true. Actually, there is a difference. Either they are a platform or they are a publisher. If they are
there are differences between those, and neither one of them is the same thing as what most people are arguing about is not being a platform online is not the same thing as being a public forum.
Public square or public forum. Yeah, actually that is. That's the very definition.
No, it's not.
That's why they have the
platform. It is not.
That's why they have the platform protection.
No,
that's why they have the
protection is because they are saying that they cannot in advance, or do not in advance research and look at each thing that is being put up. They only do so in hindsight.
Yeah, but it's also not. It's also not in advance or in hindsight. It's purely on whether they are a platform allowing people's speech, or if they are a publisher, which is editing people's speech. And what they are doing is they're editing.
They're not editing it.
Yeah, they
No,
are.
they're completely removing it when they want to remove
Which is a form of
editing would
editing.
be coming in and putting in, like,
No.
censor bleeps in the middle of your video.
Completely removing it is also a form of editing. Whether we enjoy it or not, it is. And the problem is, sorry, and the
It's
problem,
like arguing if I go get a newspaper and then I cut an article out of it, I've edited the newspaper. It's
if you then,
trivially correct. You could
if
technically say it's
if
true,
you then,
but it
if
is
no,
not what is meant by it.
no. We're only interested in the technical meaning of words because that's how the law operates. We're not
The
interested
law
in.
so far has not remotely cited to say that they have to allow things.
Actually, the law kind of did, but they haven't really enforced it. But they did say they have to. And I'm wondering how long it takes.
Too.
Sorry?
Go ahead and provide me where they said that one too.
Okay. Well, for example, when the President of the United States no longer was allowed to block people from Twitter because it was an open platform and everyone should be allowed to see what he has to say. If it's true for the President, it should be true for everyone because there is no such thing as a bigger person.
Okay, so the difference when you're talking about a government official is exactly
stop.
Government
No,
official.
because he has an official governmental and a private channel. Are we now saying that he can't be a private person because he also is the president? I think therein lies the whole problem. We're trying to define speech and trying to find our ways to create, how do you call it, exemptions when it suits us, but then at the same time use those very same rules to disallow exemptions for others. That is the fine definition of censorship. Can we agree that that is a problem?
Is it just...
Are you still there?
I was trying to figure out the same thing. I don't know what happened, if my phone cut out or what.
Well, welcome back. That's first.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know if my phone's freezing up or what. It's not the first time it seems to have done that. It's just the first time it seems to have messed with me being heard.
I can hear you fine. Or at least I can hear you fine now. I don't know if I missed something.
Right. There was something going on and it just like froze up. I don't know where it did so.
Okay. But do you understand? Do you understand what I mean with the double standard then, at least?
Between what? How they treat the public and how they treat a public figure?
Yes.
Or in this case, a government figure?
Yeah, but again, is the government figure a government figure 24/7, or does he have a private life as well?
He doesn't use it for a private life. He doesn't use it as a private account. He uses it as a public figure.
That's not true. The Twitter account...
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. The name of the Twitter account is The Real Donald Trump, not President Donald Trump.
And how does that matter? That doesn't... I could name my account whatever I want and then turn around and use it for something else.
Did he use it before he was...
It's like saying that North Korea is a republic because they named themselves that.
Fair point. No, fair point. Did he use it before he was president?
I'm sure.
Therefore, is it a presidential account?
I didn't say it was a presidential account. I said he uses it that way.
He's allowed to.
While he is acting as president and using his account for that kind of information, he is not being allowed to then stop people from seeing and interacting with it.
Let me ask you a different question then. And the answer to this one may be, well, interesting to say the least. do the laws not apply to the president?
Oh, you're right, very interesting, because it seems like some aren't being applied that should be.
Which ones?
This would get into a whole different topic that we do not have time for.
It still boils down to the same thing over and over again. Will we allow our platforms the right to censor what you and I can get to see? And should we, as users, support this with our money? Because that's basically where it all started. Or is that an oversimplification of on my part?
Most likely.
Sorry? I didn't hear what you said.
Well, I wasn't sure what the simplification thing was about.
Well, I think the fact that we censor certain things, or at least they censor certain things and allow other things, is an issue we need to address. And this is, for me...
That could be the case, though we probably also disagree on how big of an issue and what should be allowed, and clearly because we've had some of this argument here. But at the same time, at the end of the day, regardless of how big a problem that is or isn't, our choices on how we interact with YouTube come down to leave the site, actually do support the creators, whether by viewing ads or by paying for premium, and thus also support YouTube, or act in a way that refuses to support either.
Well, why
and
can't...
I think that
why
premium happens to be the best of those options.
Why can't we support the creators but not YouTube?
Because nobody can realistically afford to support all or most of the creators that they're going to interact with and watch.
Do you have
these other sites which require a minimum amount for every one of them?
Do you have to? Do you have to support every one of them? Or is there something you can translate for, today I'll support you, tomorrow I'll support you? Is that also an option?
Sure, you can.
Or do we have to pay YouTube in the hope that they support the ones that I would like them to support?
I mean, you can do whatever you want, just like I can continue to use this. We haven't been arguing really about whether or not it's allowed.
I'm not talking about whether it's allowed or not, but this is why I'm against premium, and I will advocate against it. Because...
And I still think it's better to pay that little bit and have it distributed out based on everyone you're watching rather than just a handful that you personally think are worth your extra time and effort to go support.
In the hope that YouTube does as you hope.
With the knowledge that I am actually supporting people who are only being partially demonetized, as was demonstrated by Vice Rhino at the beginning of the Twitter thread that led to this.
Well, fair enough. Maybe this is true in his case. Is this true in all cases? Is this true in the people who not only get demonetized but also get removed from the platform?
I mean, obviously, if they're removed from the platform, money going into the platform isn't going to them. That is just... Of course, nobody is going to argue that somebody who is removed from the platform gets your money from premium. If you wanted to support them, you would have to find a different way to do so, yes.
If you support creators you watch, and out of the creators you watch, one or two get removed from the platform, why are you still paying premium? Because you're supporting YouTube more than the creators. Because if YouTube disagrees with the creators, your money isn't going to them. They might as well get kicked off the platform altogether.
Your point still hinges on being able to verify that they are, in fact, refusing to split that money with people they disagree with.
No,
And
well,
we are
I mean,
talking specifically about premium money, not advertiser money.
if they can kick people off the platform because they disagree with them, which they have in the past, doesn't that already answer the question?
That they can, not that they do.
But they
They've
did.
kicked people off the platform, sure.
They have proven to
And like
do
I
that.
said, if you do get kicked off the platform, then yeah, you'd have to go support them elsewhere. I can't say that anybody I have been interested in watching has been kicked off, but that's just a matter of different content, different views,
And
different
this might be
behaviors.
an interesting way of looking at it. It may just be a different of time. Because let's
Not
be
sure
honest,
what you mean by that.
if they can kick certain people for arbitrary reasons, how long?
Which every site has been able to do since the dawn of the internet.
Not for a long time. I mean, there were some stringent rules to it. You had to have a reason to kick someone, and we don't like what you have to say wasn't a reason. You had to break the law.
Except like every terms of service you look at historically on the internet includes little bits in there specifically so they can, in fact, remove you for any reason or no reason at all.
Yeah, that's not how it started. That's how it is. That's not the same thing.
That's how it's been for at least 20 years.
No, that's not true.
It kind of is for the majority of them. I've been on the internet for over 20 years, and that is a cause I've seen from any major company and most small people who create something
they only
that people interact with.
Especially the larger platforms only kicked you for breaking the law.
They may have only enforced it at that. They still put it in their terms to guarantee they could.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
The law was always the measuring tool they used.
No, it really wasn't.
Yeah, it was though. That's okay. That's okay. We can disagree on this. I don't mind. But now it's no longer the law. We can agree that it's not the law that gives them reasons to kick people, right?
Sure, it's not. It hasn't been, and I would prefer it not become law that certain things can't be said or done.
So if they can kick you for other reasons than the law, does that then automatically not mean they are no longer a platform? They're no longer a public forum. Are you still there? I'm afraid you may have some problems with your phone.
I can do that. You have it there first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can remove it to enforce those. That difference, the fact that it's being removed rather than put down in advance, is literally why the protections and how the protections exist.
I'm sorry. You were quiet for quite a long time, and then you started you didn't start sound. The sound came through rather fast, so it was roboting at the beginning and speeding up, and in the end, you were sounding like you were talking normally.
Okay.
So I'm pretty sure you had something to say. I'm not trying to diminish what you wanted to say.
No.
I'm merely saying that we didn't hear it.
I get it. I probably have poor signal or something. So the difference between the publishers and whatever you want to refer to, the group that actually gets those protections, that can actually not be held liable for what its users say and do, the difference is quite literally that what they do is they put something out, they set up something, whether it's a web forum, which I've had before, and most people don't care that they have terms, or something like YouTube. They put it out there, and they set it up so that you can put your stuff on it without them reviewing it first. Because they don't review it first, then thus can't make sure it never enters their website. That's why they're not held liable for what people say on it. But then they turn around and have rules, and can have rules, as has been the case all along, to say, no, these things aren't allowed, so I'm going to remove them.
Well, I'm looking at US Code 230, and it is quite clear in its explanation. Now, obviously, you can remove certain things from your platform, but that kind of means you're no longer a platform.
Go ahead and read how it says that.
Okay, now I have to look it all up again. No!
Go ahead, go for it. You're
Yeah, no, I will.
the site's
I will.
legal code.
Well, this might be the interesting bit. Now, let me read it up a little bit, because, as I said, English is not my primary language.
Which could be part of the issue, by the way.
Well, maybe. So, if the platform is behaving as a platform, it has basic protections, right? To promote, now I have to go back to the first one, why not? The rapidly developing array of internet and other interactive services available on individual Americans represents an extraordinary advance in the availability of educational and informational resources to our citizens. These services offer users a great degree of control over the information that they receive, as well as the potential for even greater control in the future as technology develops. These services offer the users a great degree. The internet and the other interactive company service offers a forum for a true diversity of political discourse, unique opportunities for cultural development, and a myriad of avenues for intellectual activity. The internet and the other interactive computer services have flourished to the benefit of all Americans with a minimum of government regulation. Increasingly, Americans are relying on interactive media for a variety of political, educational, cultural, and entertainment services. So far, we are agreeing on this one?
So far, you've gotten into no actual legal code. It's just a description of what's going on.
This is US Code 230A.
Yes, so, but the part you're reading is not actually the law. It's the stuff that goes in front of it to explain the overall situation and why they are writing the law.
Fair enough, but it's part of the law. It's what the rest is based on, right? So the rest of this is based on these services offers users a great degree of control over the information.
Which is not exclusive with having some controls themselves, by the way. They do offer users controls. That's what the block button is, the mute button on Twitter, the ability to follow, to subscribe, to unfollow.
Once they decide that they will not have a certain thing on their platform, a thing that I enjoyed, a thing that made me come to that platform, are they not taking away my control?
I don't think they are, to the degree that's going to actually get them into legal trouble now.
Actually, it should, because it does. But so far, politicians haven't really cared to do something about it, which is problematic, I agree.
Considering there have definitely been people to try to get lawyers involved and try to take these cases, if it were actually illegal, we should see that happening.
We did see that happening, for example, with Louder for Crowder.
No, I mean we should see it actually being enforced.
We saw it enforced with Louder for Crowder. YouTube wanted
go out and do that, but at the same time, you're reading what you've read off states that they give users control. It controls, plural, by the way, because it doesn't say that they give users all control.
Actually, these services offer users a great degree of control. Plural.
Fair
Sorry,
enough, fair
singular.
correction. A
Singular.
great degree, not that they do it all, that does
No?
not mean that they do not control anything. It does not mean that they don't have limits.
But anyway, so yeah, Louder for Crowder actually did hire a lawyer and fought YouTube on it, and so far they're still on the platform.
And-
so therefore, we can assume that they actually were conceded to be correct.
We could actually, and probably actually should, before making such a conclusion, look and see what actually happened in the court case. Did the court case ever conclude, like, as an actual case?
There were no court
or did YouTube
cases.
simply decide to settle because it was easier?
I don't know if it's easier, but apparently they decided. And at some points, Stephen Crowder settled, because, in all fairness, the fact that they were demonetized for quite a long time might have been called for them to have say, you know what, we don't care about your money, we're going to be busy anyway. Actually, this has been their main argument for the longest time. YouTube may deplatform us, they may demonetize us, but we don't care.
Oh, it's not even that I don't care. It's I don't agree that it's illegal.
I'm not saying you don't care.
It never gets that far.
I'm not saying
does make it kind of hard to say completely for certain, but at the same time, it does not, make it possible to say that it's illegal for them to do what they're doing.
I didn't say you don't care. I said Stephen Crowder doesn't care. YouTube might demonetize them, but they didn't care. Not enough to make that big of a deal about it. They did make a lot of stink about other things. For example, when YouTube blocked certain streams of theirs. And those they have, well, consistently won. Now, none of them went to court, so they were all settled indoors, so to speak. But there were contests, and they were settled. If YouTube feels that they have a strong case, they would have fought it. Not once did they fight back, so to speak. Or rather, they didn't expect Crowder to fight back when they turned on him. Makes you wonder why things like Stefan Molyneux or what's the guy, Infowars. Well, Infowars probably won't fight YouTube because they have their own platform. But makes you wonder why they didn't fight back to YouTube as Crowder did. I think that's the interesting question. I don't know what the answer to that one is. Anyway, the policy. It is the policy of the United States to promote the continued development of the internet and other interactive computer services and other interactive media, to preserve the vibrant and competitive free market that presently exists for the internet and the other interactive computer services, unfettered by federal or state regulations, to encourage the development of technologies which maximize user control over what information is received by individuals, families, and schools who use the internet and other interactive computer services, to remove disincentives for the development and utilization of blocking and filtering technologies that empower parents to restrict their children access to objectionable or inappropriate online material, and to ensure vigorous enforcement of federal criminal law to deter and punish trafficking in obscenity, stalking, and harassment by means of the computer. At no point in time did they say that the platforms should be able to do this. I really have the feeling that your phone connection is... Oh, okay. I think this time we lost connection completely. What a shame. Okay, let's see if she's still alive. I'm sorry, people. I could repeat my guest's name. Lady Unicorn EJG 7.9? No, well, Lady Unicorn EJG. I don't know why that's her name. Lady Unicorn. And maybe there was too much mansplaining, but she did have problems with her phone earlier, and she did just tell me on Twitter that her phone kicked her off. So maybe that's true. You'd have to pay attention to the chat. I did pay attention to the chat, only so much. That's how I am. Hey, there is Lady Unicorn in the chat herself. Lady Unicorn, if you can get your phone to work and you want to come back in, we can finish it in a different way, or we can finish it in a different time, but I will leave that up to you. Let me know what you want. And indeed, guys, she did have problems with her phone earlier. I mean, we did notice it a few times. So, John, don't be nasty. That's just unfair. Come on. I mean, we sometimes have issues with our connection as well. It happens. Come on. I'm sorry, but yeah, shit happens. That's the downside of technology. When it fails, it fails. There's very little we can do about it. Well, Lady Unicorn, let me know what you want to do. Whether you want to try to get back on, or whether you want to call it quits. Hey, I hear something. I heard a beep. I don't know why I heard a beep, because no one joined. Yeah. Here. A rematch on another date. Well, maybe. Maybe not. Up to her. You know me, I'm always game for a good old-fashioned lark about. And yes, there will be a stream tomorrow, Ludicrous. I haven't decided what it will be about, but there will be a stream tomorrow. Because I know you, John. Why do I consider you were being nasty? Well, no, seriously, all joking aside, though. Yeah, you're correct, mate. But in all fairness, I mean, technology fails on us from time to time. We knew this could happen. And she did have issues during the chat a few times, let's be honest. Whether we agree or not should not be the reason to make fun. I mean, no one knows how technology will fail us next time. I believe you weren't being nasty. I won't say you never are, but I believe you were not being nasty, John. I was just kidding. I never am. Um, I have the feeling EJG is not coming back. And yes, offensive is taken. I'm sorry for being quiet. As it is, Lady Unicorn will not return on the stream talking because, well, she can only do it on her phone. I assume she's in the chat via the computer. If anyone else wants to join on this hangout thingy so we can talk about, I don't know, then yeah, let me know. I can send you an invite. But I fear that Lady Unicorn won't return today. But who knows, maybe on a later date we will continue this. And I am trying to focus on sending her a message now. So that's because of phone, I don't know. Well, I mean, depending on the sort of phone, I mean, I know, for example, I used to have an LG G5, and when the battery was nearly dead, it would simply stop functioning. And if you were doing something that it felt you didn't need to be doing, it simply cut that program. It didn't matter what you like to do, who cares? And if you didn't push the right button fast enough, it would crash altogether and you would have to restart it. And if the battery was particularly empty, it wouldn't allow you to restart because you first have to reload it. So yeah, phones are interesting things. I hope you don't see it as a rematch, Lady Unicorn. This isn't supposed to be me bashing you over the head. I mean, you made some very interesting points yourself. But you're more than welcome to come and join us whenever you feel like it. But I do believe you that this is your phone failing. I mean, we did have some problems during the end of your connection as well when we couldn't hear you talk and all of a sudden a blurb of sound came. So I believe you when you say your phone failed you. There's no doubt in my mind on that one. Oh, come on, John, don't remove your message that fast. I didn't have time to read it. Well, maybe the MGG5 already had artificial intelligence. Who knows? You may be correct. I doubt it, but you may be correct. And the leprechaun wasn't the problem, John. Pretty sure of it. So anyone else want to join, or should we call it quits for the hangout? I'm giving the floor to you people. Take your mic, hover over the message and click show deleted content. Oh, I didn't know I could do that. No, it doesn't. It doesn't give me that option. I can report it, put you on a timeout, hide you, or take away your moderation privileges. So that's quite strange. Yes, I understood, Mouse, Michael, I understood. But no, I can't seem to be doing that. I can't bring back the message John himself removed. Okay, let me. Okay, guys, I linked the Hangout for if you want to join in, and yeah, if no one comes, then I saw it before and after. I know what was being typed wrong, and no, I'm not bothered that easily, despite being actually very sensitive. Oh well, I care little for people's sensitivities. I am a bastard like that. But then again, I do care a lot about people. Um, they should have the right to have their opinions. And again, Lady Unicorn, this chat wasn't meant to be a fight between, well, you're right, you're wrong. No, but it was to be on what's going on and why we feel certain things. And again, this is why I still think we shouldn't do premium on YouTube, because we're supporting YouTube. But I do understand your point of view that you want to support the content creators you like. And I'm not going to wait here 90 minutes before you join me, John. Sorry, mate, it's not going to happen. Michael is going off now. Everyone is leaving. Oh. That's all right, people. In that case, I'm going to call it quits. I hope you all enjoyed the show. Lady Unicorn, I do hope you enjoyed it, and if ever there's a topic on this stream that you think, oh well, I got something to say on that too, or I want to share my opinion on it, by all means you are welcome. You've been here once, you don't have to remain a stranger. You're always welcome to return. I'm going to see you all later. Well, actually, I'm seeing the rest of you tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a good time. Bye-bye.